In my last video, I was suggested a challenge. In the comment, I was suggested to beat the game with as few E-presses as possible. So no picking up cubes, no interacting with buttons, and anything else that requires E. Before I start the run, I'm going to establish a few things. This time I have a different chart, as I'm going to be showing all the different routes and the amount of E-presses they take. So, glitchless, glitched, and out of bounds. I'm classing out of bounds as a further extension further than glitched, as it's much further than just a simple glitch in a chamber. Besides this, I'm going to make it clear which chambers I'm skipping in this video. Any chambers which don't have buttons or cubes of some sort are being removed. This ends up only being 6 of the 20 test chambers. With everything else out of the way, I'm going to get started. First few chambers, you get introduced to the concept of picking up test objects. Instead of doing that, we can lead them towards the button by a bunch of pushing and shoving and rolling. That gets them about eventually. As I said before, we're skipping over chambers 2 and 3 as nothing happens in the portal gun chamber, but we have the portal gun now. Thankfully, the portal gun allows us to maneuver cubes a lot easier. In this next chamber, we can just shoot under and boom. Chamber 5 is pretty simple, just get the cubes onto the buttons. Again, in Chamber 9, it's get a cube on top of the button. But then Chamber 11 rolls around. This is where we get the dual portal device. Now, if you're looking to do the intended route to get the portal gun, you're out of luck. You can get the dual portal device by jumping to it from a higher area, which is how I did it. But now we're presented with our first proper issue. A button. To progress through this area, we need to get into this room. And this room isn't accessible without pressing a button. As far as I'm aware, this isn't something that can be achieved glitchless, so I'm going to add an E-press on here. I tried finding a glitched method for this. I first thought of a portal bump into that room, as there's a bunch of white surfaces around it, but it didn't seem possible. Eventually, I was able to come to the conclusion that this was something I would have to do out of bounds. There may be a glitched route using save load abuse, but I really don't think I could figure that out. So, in this instance, I'm using an out of bounds glitch. So to start it off, I'm going into this room which isn't out of bounds as it has collision, but I'm going to be doing a portal bump on the ceiling. This portal bump will allow me to place a portal on the outside, which is under the floor of the room we're trying to get into. If you enter the portal as is, you'll just fall into the void. But if you do a trick called a re-entry, you're able to get inside of that room. So, this is the room we want to get into. This is Chell, and she shoots a nice ceiling portal here, and then we do a portal bump by shooting a portal at this portal, and then that makes a portal here as it's trying to find the closest place it can place a portal, and that happens to be this out of bounds area. So, then we place this portal on the floor, and then we let Chell enter that portal. Boom. Yeah, it was the magic of editing. And then as we enter this portal, we replace this orange portal up here, or some other place on the wall. So then when we enter this, we end up here, and since the game doesn't want to trap us out of bounds, it sends us up here, into the room. That's it. That's all it takes. Boom. Incredible. After that incredible explanation, we have saved ourselves 1 E-press, so we're still at 0 for out of bounds, 1 on everything else. Chamber 12 is back to the usual gig, no E-presses, just shoving a cube about. Cube on button, cube on button, cube on button. Chamber 15 shakes things up by giving us buttons instead. We can't use these buttons, so completing the puzzle isn't possible, but with a pretty easy fling we're able to get to the end elevator. Chamber 16, we can't pick up the turrets and throw them, but portals and just shoving them works pretty well. So now we're at Chamber 17. Chamber 17 was pretty bad last time for my jumpless challenge. And if you thought it was hell last time, it is super hell this time. It is awful. So we have the same issue again. Stairs. We have to get the cube up there to solve the puzzle at the end, and we can't grab it, which makes it 10 times worse than last time. Whilst looking around, I found a guide for this chamber done by someone called Taful, and this was the best thing I could have ever asked for. Whilst some of the strats I feel I could have figured out, the 4 hours spent making that video really helped me. So, to start off, you catch the cube on your head, which can take a couple of attempts, but if you make a save before, it only really falls one way each time. Then, you have to very slowly, edge the cube over towards this area. Be very slow. It is super easy to drop. You then push it very slightly over this edge, and if you jump into it, you seem to just rise up. I don't really know how it works, but some geometry helps you there. So once you're up there and the cube's up there, you're able to pretty easily jump onto the last step. In the guide I'm following, they use test tools to make this hallway, and I don't think that's very possible for me, so I'm gonna add one E-press for glitchless. Following the glitchless route, if you just get through the hallways and use geometry to get the cube unstuck from your hands, you can save an E-press. Then we'll catch up with this later as we get to here with the glitched route. As I said before, it's not possible to get through this hall without glitches, so I'm going to do something called an accelerated backhop. An accelerated backhop is basically, in simple terms, if you're going too fast, the game gives you backwards velocity. If we're going backwards, it makes us go even faster. So, once we get through here, how does that help us get the cube? Well, there are a lot of cameras here. Remember camera stairs? We're doing that again. So before making this video, I had a pretty okay relationship with cameras. This all changed with this. That collision is the single worst thing in this entire game. It made me want to cry. That and timing it between pellets hitting you and everything else was just such a nightmare. Basically, the idea is you get the cameras and you raise the cube up just enough with the cameras. You only really need 2 or 3, but as long as you leave one camera for later, you can use as many as you want. The last step is a bit of a confusing one. You kind of just walk and jump into the cube until you make it stand up, and then you have about half a second to get it to sit and roll it over. It's terrible. It took me about 20 minutes to get this last step. Now, this is the hard part of the chamber done. The rest of it is a little less hard. Now, drop a save. The energy ball can still kill you as you're trying to get your cube into your portal. Once you get your cube back to where we have it in the glitchless route, we perform the same fling as we did in the last video. Once you've done the fling, you can portal the cube inside. And as I said earlier, you needed to save one camera, so go grab that camera and push it through your portal as well. So as for the cube, we have to push the cube into the incinerator, which takes a little time, but it's not nearly as bad as the next camera bit. Get the camera and push it until it's leaning against the door. You'll have to roll it over with your body enough and then shove it, and it takes forever, but once you have it leaning against the wall, you can open the door and then there's an E press, so we have to press E. But you don't have to press E on all of the routes, because it doesn't work like that. Because I was holding all the cards up my sleeve for the past 10 seconds of recording audio. Let's talk about parallel universes. On the Xbox 360 version, which is kind of a parallel universe to the Steam version, there's a glitch to do with the door of the incinerator. One half of it is kind of just already open. So I went back and did this entire Chamber 17 route on my Xbox 360, and with that, boom, Chamber 17 is done with 0 E-presses. I'm gonna count it as glitched because that is not intended, but hell yeah. Now, of course on PC, there's probably some out of bounds route, but I can't be bothered to show you that. The Xbox 360 edition's cooler, so just take that as you will. Chamber 18 starts off with another button, and a whole room that's only active if you have the ability to press the button. That's great. Now, if you think about the last chamber, we have a door, and that door can be held open by props. So, if we go right back to the beginning of the chamber, we have a bunch of props in the Ratman Den. I specifically chose the PC here because I feel like it's a good pick. It's quite square, so it's less likely to fall out of the door. There aren't any easily accessible portable surfaces, so we get the fun game of shoving a prop into the portal and hoping it goes in. I made it look pretty effortless here, but this took me about 20 minutes. I don't know how. If you shove the computer against the door, stand on the button, you've got yourself a free ticket to the rest of the chamber, which is just flings, so no E-presses there. On to Chamber 19. Chamber 19 starts off strong, as usual, but once we begin the escape, we meet a quick stop. Doors. You may see that the door is not fully open and think, oh, well, you can easily shoot through that. You can't. I don't know why there's collision to stop you doing that, but there is. Great. Now, I'm very sorry to our glitchless friends. You're gonna have to add on 2 E-presses. I'm sorry. For everyone else watching, backtrack to a save at the beginning of Chamber 19. In Chamber 19, there's this trick called Loch Ness. Loch Ness allows us to do this. It's called Loch Ness because you're in the goo. If you're confused at what's happening, here's another angle. And another angle. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it? So, what is Loch Ness, and why does it let us do that? Loch Ness is a very specific setup of a glitch called a large angle glitch. Large angle glitch is reliant on you standing through one portal that's on a flat surface, and one portal that's on an angle. By jumping through this portal, you get teleported 3 times at once, and this displaces the final exit of where you're meant to go out of the portal. Instead of traveling the distance between the portals that you have placed, it instead teleports the same distance between them, but in a completely different direction. With the specific Loch Ness setup, it allows us to get into the gook pit over there, which allows us to skip both of the doors. Now, that's a very abridged version of this, so I'll leave a link to the Portal speedrun doc down below, and a more in-depth tutorial to let you figure it out yourself. After it took me 100 attempts to perform that, we've skipped both doors. Nice. As we get further into the escape, we're fine for a bit, but then we come across another door. There isn't any way to bypass this door without glitches, so add an E-press. By doing the portal bump we learned earlier, but on the floor this time, we're able to get through with a little bit of a specific setup. Then we come across a button-powered rocket turret. Thankfully, there's a way to activate this rocket turret without pressing the button. If we destroy this glass in front of us by using gravity, so pushing a chair through a portal a few times, we're able to get it to go to its next phase and just turn on. Then we can continue, just break the glass, and as we walk along, we have to do another portal bump as there's another door. Sorry, glitchless. Then, as usual, use the turret to break the glass, and then use the turret to break the other glass and get the cube. Boom, you're through. Now we're on the final map. Were you tired of doors? This map has another door as a special treat. Glitchlessly, you needed just more. It's surrounded by metals, so maybe they learnt from our portal bumping tricks. Except, you can still portal bump to the right of it. It's fine. Thankfully, this is the last door. Now we're in Glados' chamber. Hell yeah. Except, I lied to you. I'm sorry. There is another door right here. And you can portal bump through it on the floor. It's fine. Now we're in Glados' chamber. So the final boss of this game has this cool mechanic where you have these cores and you get them in the incinerator to destroy her one by one. You have to press a button to open the incinerator. So that's 4 more E-presses for each one in glitchless. I'm sorry. So for a glitched route, there's a speedrun trick that allows us to shoot onto the incinerator. And then when we shoot cores through our other portal, it just incinerates them. No need to press the buttons. So for an edge glitch to work, you need to be at the very side or top of a portal. In our case, it's the side. What happens now is our camera's position changes. It gets completely detached from where our body actually is. In the top left, I'm using a plugin to show where my camera actually is. You can see it's outside of this Glados chamber. This is still in bounds as it's a massive box that we're in. Doing this allows us to shoot onto the incinerator. From there, I'd make a save before you shoot the core. Sometimes it doesn't always get incinerated. There we go. You'll need to do this multiple times, so in the description, I'll leave a guide for how to do this. So that ends the run with 0 E-presses for out of bounds. That's pretty nice. If it worked like that. See, Glados' chamber has this really awesome thing with cores. 2 of the cores are just stuck in place unless you press E on them. The anger core can avoid this as there's a trigger if you jump on it to just detach from this position. But for the other 2, we have to press E. There is no way around it. Despite it being ruined in the last chamber by a 2 mandatory for everyone and also all those doors for glitchless, it was really fun to work out. And it was a lot more versatile than the last challenge where it mostly only happened in the latter half. It was fun to explain all the glitches and how I figured out my route, but obviously with the glitches, I'd always recommend you check out the speedrun doc instead. So now I've taken away Charles' arms and legs, I really don't know what else I can do in Portal, but I'll figure it out. Thanks for watching.